Welcome to the Merick Ulrik podcast, special Battletech edition. This is all you need to start playing the game of Battletech. Enjoy the show. All right, Cleve, good to see you again. Sorry, it's a long time no see. We actually skipped a week or so, and so it's good to have you back on the podcast. Yeah,
Good to be back.
I was going to tell you, I did a few little things, and I definitely want to do some more. I felt like I did a BattleTech, even just a simple video about BattleTech, the game, and it seemed to be somewhat popular. I guess something's picking it up on the algorithm. Whenever I have a even like a few extra views, I think like, wow, that's it must be popular, even if it's not popular. It's something that I. Can you hear me? Okay, am I coming through? Okay, I
Yeah,
should be.
yeah. I did notice that you picked up a couple of subscribers.
Yeah,
That's kind
I
of
don't know
cool.
how that happened, but a few trickled in. That's kind of cool. The one at a time. Also, another thing that started, and I'm doing I decided I created a Kindle Vella co-op newsletter. So what I noticed was like a lot of Kindle Vella authors, they don't have a newsletter at all. All they're doing is trying to promote on Facebook, and I keep asking them, well, why don't you just get a newsletter? And they're like, it sounds too hard. And I was like, okay. But then I thought, well, what if I created a co-op where all they have to do is just try to get some subscribers, and I kind of like organized it for everyone. So I don't know if it's extra work, but so they're going out and getting subscribers for themselves and for everyone else, and so it's the one extra thing to juggle. But on Saturday mornings, we're having it's called the Saturday Morning Kindle Vella Update, and so we're thinking of ways of promoting different Kindle Vellas and stuff, which it's kind of interesting because there's a lot of different genres and stuff. So I don't know how popular it will be. We'll see. Maybe it'll take off. I don't know. What's that?
Yeah,
And
good luck. I haven't written. I wrote something for Vela
mhm.
a while back, but it was a science fiction. It didn't do very
Yeah.
well. So I think if I wrote romance or something like that, it'd probably do well. But
The War Drums of Canth, I released that on originally on Vela, and it didn't do very well. I felt like it just didn't get the read through. So I noticed like people were not even like finishing it, and so that really like bothered me. And then it took me a while to put out the War Drums of Canth, and then when I was editing it, I was like, no, this is a good story. It's just not Vela. It's not a episodic. It has to be. I think it has to be something kind of soap opera driven, where it's like what happens in the next what happened to Jim on last episode with Susie. You have to have something that's kind of like,
yeah,
I think, drama in a sense that,
dun dun
yeah, something
dun.
that's
Yeah,
just like
drama.
kind of like General Hospital. It doesn't have to be a hospital, but something like that where it's like maybe just,
As the
yeah,
world
just more of
turns.
like episodic. Whereas like Brandon Sanderson novel is going to be a lot of different characters, slower, driven. You don't even know what's going on until you get halfway into the book sometimes, and that's not going to work with Villa, I don't think, in my opinion.
It needs to be
Yeah,
sensationalism,
you know
probably.
what? I was going to tell you another science fiction author that I had on the podcast got bit by a snake. He was talking to me, and he got bit by a venomous snake. Jay Tony. I hope he's okay. I need to check back in with him.
I
But he
saw
got a
that.
big old poisonous snake bit him on the leg, and he talks about,
I think it's the
yeah, it must have been a
rattlesnake, right?
rattlesnake or something. I'm not sure. I believe he's in Mississippi. I'm not sure. And
Hmm.
he has a nice garden. I've seen a lot of pictures of his garden and his chickens and stuff. And so, if Jay, if you're listening, I hope you're recovering and I hope you're well. I hope don't
Yeah.
don't don't wait too long to get to the doctor if you get bit by a snake again, because that's just scary to me.
We're
Yeah,
notorious for that kind of thing. We
yeah,
wait
we're
too
like,
long for
it's
stuff.
okay. It's a scratch.
It'll
It's a flesh
pass.
wound. It's merely a flesh wound. Yeah.
Oh, buddy, got
Right, right. So,
kneecaps.
but I
Yeah.
hopefully he's recovering better. I mean, that's something. I had a friend one time who got bit in the foot by a rattlesnake or a snake, a water moccasin or something, and it was seriously a an ordeal. He had to get all those anti venom shots and stuff, and his leg all swelled up. So it's not even. But I think he even like treated the wound himself. So go go Jay
Hmm.
for his grit, of dealing with that. But I hope he's recovering well. So Jay, if you're listening, I hope you're doing better.
I do too. We have Western Diamondbacks here, and I've always heard that if it bites you like on the hand or arm or something, it's like taking a hammer and just whacking your hand. That's what it swells up like and feels like.
Yeah,
That's the pressure I
swells
think that
up.
comes with it. And I was like, oh, that doesn't
Well, I
sound
know
good.
snake's venom coagulates your blood. It just sounds bad. Sounds really bad. So we're going to talk about The Terror, okay? And it's a series on Netflix. Very entertaining. But did you know there's another series? I guess I don't know if it's on Netflix or what, or a movie called The Terror. When I looked it up today, I was like, that is not the movie we just saw. So maybe there's another. There's other things besides named The Terror. But I found the story really cool. I found. Oh, what's going on? Pause that. Sorry. I found it. Well, anyways, before we get started on that, I think the setting is really cool about The Terror. It's set in I guess the colonial times when they are not the colonial, I guess the 1800s when they're trying to explore Antarctica and the North Pole, and they're looking for a route over water from Northwest
Northwest
Passage.
Passage.
Yes. So, um, oh,
It's
what
1847.
what did you think? I'd love to hear you, Cleve. Go ahead. I've got a little. Oh, last night I had a gig and was a pretty busy day. Actually, we had a lot of stuff going on last week. Before we get into the real story of everything, I had last week we had car trouble. We had to place four tires on our car, and then me and my girlfriend, and so we had to get a rental car, and then we had to return the rental car on Friday night, and then I had a gig on Friday night, so it was just like a lot of stuff going on, and we had rented the car with an app called Turo, and we rented it like 45 minutes away from where we live, or about an hour. So I had to drive there, drive back, and then go to the gig. So it was a lot of fun, but just a busy week. So, anyways, I'm always having a busy week. I just like I have excuses or something. So, but
Yeah, well, I've had a busy week too. I'm like right before this podcast, I'm like maybe one and a half chapters away from finishing my latest book. Now I was working on two books at the same time, but I kind of ran into a rough patch, and then I started looking at a book that I had about, I don't know, little bit over half finished, and I thought, you know what, I'm tired of having all this stuff lying around
right,
half finished. So I decided that, well, since I'm kind of stuck on that one for a minute, trying to figure out what I want to do with the storyline, and I need to give it some thought. I thought, well, you know what, I'm doing that. I'm going to jump over here and finish this book, and so I'm almost finished, and got a couple more books. I'm going to try to finish them in between, but yeah, so I've been pretty prolific this week. I've been probably wrote about, I don't know, fifteen
that's
thousand
awesome,
words.
man. I've probably written half that, maybe, maybe like a quarter of that this week, like just 1,000 or 2,000 words here and there. But that's really great, man. Hey, I don't know if we should talk about it yet, but you're mentioning maybe starting a podcast of your own, possibly. What would you like to do about?
Yeah.
What would the theme of the podcast be about?
Um, I've been thinking about that. I don't know if
I'm
I
s-
want to do
I'm
exactly
sorry
what
for
we're
putting
doing
you on the
here
spot. I
because
hope
I'd
I'm
like
not
you
putting you
to
on the
be.
spot. Like,
No, no, you're not. I would hope that it would be something a little bit different here because I'd like you to be
cool,
involved in it
sure,
on mine, but you know, I don't want to do the same thing
right.
we're doing here. You know, I want to do something different. So I don't know. I was thinking maybe kind of odd things or supernatural things, or I don't know. I haven't figured it out yet, but I'll get it figured out. Or maybe something to do with see, we do sci-fi, fantasy, and stuff like that here, and this is horror
Right.
that we're talking about today. So since we do that here, I don't know, probably something a little different. But I'm still thinking about what I want to do with it. But yeah, I'm getting ready to do that here pretty soon. I need to talk to you about how to do all this software
Oh
stuff
yeah,
you
I
got going
can
here.
fill you in what I know, but it's not that difficult. Um, yeah,
Yeah. So hopefully we'll have
th-
some
that'd be
crossover
great.
in that, some crossover for my audience and stuff. Maybe do something slightly different, but not
Cool.
too far different where it's not interesting to people that like fantasy and science fiction and stuff like that as well. So I haven't quite nailed it down what I'm going to do yet, but yeah, everybody's got a podcast. Why not
Oh
me?
yeah, yeah, you should definitely, and I'll be glad to help any way as I can, or let me know when you want me to guest on there. I'll be glad to be your sidekick. So it'd be fun.
That'd be great.
Another thing I did since I talked to you, I reviewed a book by James Flynn, and he does horror, and it's called the book, and I wrote it on my podcast. And maybe I could put a link in this or a picture. It's called Exodus of Evil, and so it's a horror series, but it's based on sci-fi. And he shared with me too that he got some really negative reviews at first because I think a lot of people were watching it thinking just science fiction, and not a lot of bad reviews, but some bad reviews because they were just shocked by the sheer gore. It is pretty gory, and it deals with some like just some like maniacal evil characters that are like real sadistic. So yeah, it could trigger you if you are faint-hearted of just some gory scenes and stuff. But James is a real cool guy. I wrote all about the book in my blog, so without reviewing it again, if y'all want to check that out, it's on my website, americanhulrik.com. It's a James Flynn Exodus of Evil, and so I did that just recently, and I had interviewed him a few months back, maybe like at the beginning of my podcast. So, but if you like horror with a little bit of sci-fi mix, it's called Exodus of Evil, and it's kind of gory. It's on the gory side, anyways, and it has some
So
mystery
with
in there
Exodus
too.
of Evil, you think
Yeah,
let's say with Exodus of Evil, you think that people would get the hint that it's going to be
evil stuff.
some horror in
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
probably.
But it starts out subtly. I think that's what people kind of get confused. But it has to do with a
Mm-hmm.
generation ship exploring space with like a 50,000 person or 5,000 person crew of people on a ship that's like 10 miles wide. So it's kind of a big thing to wrap your mind around, but it's pretty cool. Pretty cool. And I enjoyed it. It was a entertaining read. So check out James Flynn if you like horror. He's got a lot of different books besides that, a lot of different horror books. So this isn't like his only book. He's got a lot of series, but that was just the first one I reviewed. So, but yeah, so I think we're caught up on everything I've been doing since the last time we talked. And
No,
so this book that you're almost
we're
finished
more
is
cool.
is is in a series of the Tournament of Mages. Is that?
No, um, it's something really
Oh yeah,
cool.
yeah. Is it the
I got on my phone.
steampunk thing you're telling me about?
Yeah, uh-huh. Yeah, I got on my phone and I it wanted me to do Gemini instead of Google, on my phone because I have a Motorola, I have
Okay.
an Android. So I said, "Who's Cleve Bourbon?" And it knew me. And not only that, it talked about my weird westerns, and I don't really have any. This is the
Yeah.
first one. I was like, wow, this is like ahead of it's getting a little bit ahead of me here. But yeah, it's a steampunk. If you think about like the Wild Wild West, the TV show
Hmm.
back in the '60s, where it's kind of James Bond in the West kind of thing. It's sort of like that, but of course it's fantasy, so it's got magic and but it's got magic a little bit more than Lord of the Rings, but not like Harry
Yeah.
Potter type magic. It's somewhere in between. They use magic quite a bit, but it's not like it's very reserved. Mostly they shoot and
Right.
and he's kind of a cantankerous character. He uses his magic to like make his bullet go through more than one person, so he doesn't have to buy more bullets and things like that. But it's kind of yeah, it's steampunk, it's western, weird western steampunk fantasy type stuff. So gas lamp. It's got some
I think
gas
that
lamp
would be
stuff.
great
So
because I think that's such a unique genre niche, and I don't know. I haven't really done the market research, but it sounds like it would be something that'd be really popular.
well, there's a niche for it, and also for me, I guess being in West Texas, it was just super easy to write because I know all the kind of southern West Texas kind of lingo, like that. There's Fred,
Yeah,
that
that'd be
kind of
funny.
talking like
That'd be
that.
really funny. And then have
So,
wizards and sorcery and all kinds of stuff going on, and in the same
mhm.
time, it would be like, and you can imagine what the locals would think about it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was actually a little bit easier for me to write, I think, than
I feel like
epic fantasy
sometimes you
has
can
been.
get burnt out in one genre. Sometimes, if you feel like you're doing the same thing over and over, that's like one of the most worst things. I'm like, God, I just want to write something that I feel like it's original and fresh. So sometimes, like if I've been writing a certain series or genre, and I feel like, well, I'm just repeating stuff that I've already done, that can be kind of like, even if
Mhm.
you're not, but it's just like you feel like you maybe, how do you get I don't know. If you ever feel that way, but sometimes I do.
Well, it's kind of that's the greatest thing about fantasy. Fantasy is a very broad
Yeah,
brush. There's a lot of things that fit under fantasy. There's flintlock fantasy, which is
yeah,
this kind of is. There's steampunk is really kind of like science
yeah,
fiction more
yeah,
than fantasy. But then you have urban fantasy, contemporary fantasy, epic fantasy, high fantasy, low fantasy. It's kind of like romance. You have all these
yeah,
different types of romance. If you're a
yeah,
romance author, you don't have
yeah.
to really write one type of romance. You can just say I'm a romance author and write a
Yeah.
bunch of romance. That's kind of what I
Well,
feel
I
about
think it's
fantasy.
true.
You can
Like
say, "Oh,
I do like the medieval setting for fantasy, but if you think about it, it's like, is it all medieval, and then you kind of get stuck there? Is
right."
like, or could it be something else? Could it be, even like I guess what they even have a fantasy that is urban fantasy, where you have wizards and stuff, and they're driving around in a Corvette or something.
Yeah. Well, that's what got me started in it because I was thinking, why is technology is like man
Yeah,
stupid in the middle? And
they
technology
got all this
never
magical
advances, and
stuff, but they just can't figure out how to make a computer.
he can't quite do that
Yeah,
science thing, you know. So this kind of blends
yeah.
the science in with
It's
it,
all
and
fun though. I love it
but
all.
it's
I
deep
love it
the
all.
way. Yeah.
So, I was telling you about this series we watched on Netflix, The Terror, and then you went and checked it out. So I thought we could review it. And I
Yeah, I'm
guess
ready.
let's go ahead and transition. Is that okay? Oh, what's the
Okay,
name
so
of your? Before we leave, I'm sorry. What is the name of this new book that you're working
oh,
on? Can we list that out, or is that a
it's
secret?
gunpowder. No, it's gunpowder
Oh,
magic
that's a
and
good
lead.
name. Gunpowder, Magic, and Lead. So you heard it here first, folks. So maybe you haven't. Maybe you talked about it somewhere else. But let's just pretend you heard it here first. So check out. We'll have links to that when it's out. But Gunpowder, Magic, and Lead. I said it right.
Yeah,
By Cleve
yeah.
Bourbon.
Gunpowder magic and lead. The second book that's already planned out. It's guns, grimoires, and
Dude, I
glory.
love it because it has like a whole theme, and it's good. It's just I
Yeah,
like the gun theme and just the old Wild West and stuff. I mean, you could even
yeah.
that
They're
just sounds really
fun.
fun.
It's a
Well,
blast to
I
write.
look forward to reading it. That would be something I'd really enjoy reviewing. That would be fun. Yeah. So, are
Okay.
we ready to transition? Or I forgot if
Yeah,
we got caught up.
yeah.
We're caught up. We're caught up.
I'm ready.
Yeah. So, yeah. So I did enjoy this series, and it was like sometimes me and my girlfriend. If I haven't told you about my girlfriend, she's a supermodel. She works for Playboy. She's pretty famous. But anyways, I don't like telling her name out there because I like to keep her privacy private. Anyways, but we were like,
Girlfriend. Let me
yeah,
get my dictionary. I have to figure out what that
yeah,
is.
we were watching. We were always looking for something to watch. I mean, it's like we're trying to relax, and we have kids, so pretty much watching TV is all we can do because there's not the walls are thin. So, anyways, we um
Hmm.
we were always looking for something good to watch. So we found this show, The Terror, and I really got into it quickly. I felt like the first couple episodes for me, I really got into it, and I don't know if it's the setting. I just really like the idea of the setting and like the main character of the show, the main actor. I guess when you first start, you don't really even know who the main character is, kind of because there's so many different.
Jared Harris is one of them. The other one's Ciron.
Yeah,
Um, oh God,
Jared
can't think of his
Harris, and then there was yeah, uh,
Sir John was
yeah.
Ciron. Weird name.
And
It's a
in the
weird name.
beginning of the movie, are you talking about that actor who was the captain, the main captain? But
Yeah, Sir John. Yeah, he's the
yeah,
captain of
we
the
don't want to like.
Erebus, and he's the leader of the
No, you're
expedition.
great,
I'm
great.
sorry,
Well,
I'm
why
I'm
don't we do
cheating.
this? We'll just say let's do the first part of this non-spoiler, and then we'll go full blown spoiler. So like at some point we're gonna be like, hey, this is spoilers, and then just it's all bets are off because we're gonna just say everything we think. But let's just keep it like
Yeah.
the first 5 minutes non-spoiler. So
Okay. We probably should tell everybody that it's a
yeah.
10 episode season, and there is another season coming out, but it's not going to be. It's like kind of like they're kind of doing like
How could they do another
FX.
season? Now you got me really confused.
Well, see, they're not. It's not going to be. It's like the Japanese concentration camps in World War II. It's going to be a
Oh,
completely different
okay.
story. It's like American Horror Story where they have a
Oh.
different. I don't know if they're going to even have the same actors like they
See,
do in the
now
horror
this
story,
would do
but
good on Vela because you can just keep going and going.
yeah. So this one ended. This story, the terror that that we're reviewing today, has ended. There's going to be a terror too, but it's going to be a
Yes.
different story, different actors. It's got George Takei in
Wow.
it,
Okay.
stuff like
Then
that.
the preview that I was watching is correct. Then it's the next season. Wow. Okay. I get it. Now
Yeah.
that sounds really cool too. Um, I gotta say this is very well done. Why don't you go? Because I keep interrupting you. Why don't you tell me what? Well, let's do the non-spoiler part, and then we'll go back
Okay.
and do the
Well,
spoiler part.
the thing about it is when you tell me, "Hey, let's review this," and I start binge watching like this, I tend to go into a lot of into research mode. I do a lot of research. I research the
Yeah.
expedition and everything. It was Sir John, and I can't remember his last name for some reason, but he's a real life
Mm-hmm.
captain, and he was he kind of got the job to find the Northwest Passage. Kind of because they were trying to the Admiralty was kind of trying to. I get the feeling they don't really
Sir
say it in the
John
series, but they were
Franklin,
kind
I
of
guess is was
trying
his.
to.
Yeah.
Franklin,
Yeah.
Captain John Franklin. They were kind of trying to get him away from them. The Admiralty was kind of like, hey, we'll give this to Sir John, but they didn't really have a lot of faith in him. And then the other captain was Captain.
Francis
He's played by
Crozier.
Jared. Yeah, Crozier, Captain Crozier. He was played by Jared Harris, who's the
Uh
son
huh.
of Richard Harris, the first Dumbledore. Anyway, so it's 1847. They're going on this expedition in the Arctic to find the Northwest Passage to go, because they were trying to find
Yeah.
trade routes back then. They didn't have, Panama Canal didn't exist. So in order to go to the other side, you had to go all the way down below South
Mm-hmm.
America. And so they were trying to find a place up near England, through Canada,
It'd be so much
to the
faster,
Arctic to
right?
go to the other side. Yeah, much faster. And so they named it and they mapped it out and stuff in different places like, King William's Land and stuff like that. But what happens is they this is not spoiler. This is they get up there and Captain Crozier is trying to tell Sir John, hey, we don't want to stop here. We don't want to go any further because winter's coming. It's going to freeze up. We're going to get stuck. We're going to be subjected to the ice flow. And then Captain John was like, no, we're going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
And so they get stuck, and that's kind of where the story starts going.
It's a great story. I really enjoyed it.
That part's true. But we get into stuff later.
Speculation or fantasy.
Yeah, it's not a true story. It's partially
Yeah.
true. And they found the two ships. The two ships, they really did go off on the expedition in real life. They really did get stuck. They really did get lost. All the men, 129 men, they all got. None of them came back. There was several rescue missions that went
So
out to
this
try to find
isn't
them.
a spoiler. This is historic facts. Yeah.
This is history. This is not spoiler. This is fact. This is the fact part of it. So they got lost. They never returned. It says that at the beginning of the show. It says the ships left and they they never returned. So that's at the very beginning of the show. So that's not a spoiler. But anyway, it says that in like a title. But anyway, they found the two ships. They found the Terror and they found the Erebus. They're both sunk underwater and they're like almost just beautifully.
Well,
preserved.
how long did it take them to find these ships? This is like how.
They found the Erebus in 2014, and they found the Terror in 2016. Wow. So and the weird thing about it is the documentary thing I was watching is the Terror, the HMS Terror, is so well preserved. It sank 100 years before the Titanic, but the Titanic is in twice as bad of shape
because it was just frozen, right?
Yeah, because the conditions it's in the Arctic, there's plates, there's stuff that they just left because they had to leave. We don't know why. Right. Nobody knows why in real life. The show kind of gives us a reason, but in real life, nobody knows why they left this. They abandoned the ships. They were stuck there and it wouldn't thaw out, I guess. But no one knows what happened to them exactly. They found bits and pieces, but no one knows exactly in real life. But so it's very well preserved and it's cool. It's kind of a cool story.
I like the acting and the drama that they put in between different characters and stuff. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed the just the historical fiction part of it. It just seemed. I mean, I'm not as literate as you. I felt like it was very believable to me. Almost everything was like super believable. Everything. So before we get to the maybe some spoilers and stuff, I just really enjoyed the dynamics. Now there is a terror. Okay, there is a element of terror to this. So there's a creature that's hunting them.
Double meaning.
But besides, but to be honestly, I felt like this would have been an entertaining story without the horror element of the creature, because just the whole trying to survive just seems impossible. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's a horror story on many levels, and it is scary. Yeah. It is a scary movie, a scary series. It's a slow burning horror. I mean, as it goes along, the tension builds, and something's going to happen, but you don't know when or how, and it just slowly builds, and you start feeling this supernatural, like something supernatural is occurring, because they do little things. It's very well acted, and they do little things like the diving guy that went underneath the water. They do little things that is like just creepy. It's just like, oh, that's so creepy. If I was under there and that's just creepy. They do little things like that. They slip it in, and when you're not expecting it, and you're like, it's not really scary in that fact. It's just more like, wow, if that were me, I would be freaking out.
I think another thing about this is that I liked it at the beginning, especially, is you knew something was going to happen, but you didn't know what. I felt like this a lot of series. I'll start watching a series, and then it just seems like everything's so predictable. You're like, that guy's gonna die. This is gonna happen, and this was so unpredictable that it really was enjoyable for me. Um, but I
Yeah.
will say that Jared Harris character who plays Captain Francis Crozier, it's just from the very
Yeah.
beginning, he's like the naysayer that you're like, why won't you believe this guy? I think he's telling the truth. And so I was like, that made
Hmm.
for a good drama point. And then the character they had with Sir John, how he was even telling, it just seems like a British captain is like, don't tell the men that we're gonna have to do this because they'll be discouraged. Keep a cheery outlook. Make sure you keep the morale of the men. It seems like a very like believable that you'd have a captain like that trying to lead the men, do all this. But
Yeah. And Captain Crozier doesn't want to be on the expedition. That's one of the reasons why he's
yeah,
a naysayer. And you find out as the series
yes,
unfolds
yeah,
why he
yes.
doesn't want to be on it.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to
Well,
spoil that.
anyways, I before we go into the spoilers, and we can just do this right now, I really kind of like this. I would give it 4 stars. The only thing I did feel like it dragged the last couple episodes. For me, it really
Yeah,
dragged.
big time.
And there's one character in particular I was like, I hate this character, but that's why I just disliked him
Mr. Hickey.
because yeah, I Mr. Hickey, I really hated him, but that's what he's supposed to be. He's supposed to be a bad guy.
And he
So
is a
he's a
bad
bad
guy.
guy. Like I would say a sociopath or psychopath.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
He's one of those. He's one of the people that does stuff that's just like, oh, that's so
Yeah,
creepy.
very creepy. But yeah, I mean that's what he's supposed to
Right.
be. I think it could have kind of
Yeah.
dragged a little bit towards the end, but but
Yeah. Probably should warn people. The last two episodes are a little bit. I was kind of like, is this going
yeah,
to end?
yeah. Okay,
I'm like,
okay. All right, so
but
here on past spoilers are on, okay? So if you want to watch the show, go ahead and what you can do is just fast forward to this and we're going to talk about music and some other stuff. You can just fast forward it till after the break and after the commercials and then you can watch the show, come back and rewatch this cuz we're going to talk about spoilers. All right. Spoilers on. I want to tell you that last episode, I was just like the one thing I hate about movies is maybe because I'm so basic and so like just predictable is I hate an ending that's unsatisfying. I was just like, I didn't do the research like you did, so I didn't know that no one came back from the terror or from this expedition, and so I thought like, well, somebody's got to survive. And then after he does everything, I'm like, well, he's going to get back to England, and he'll see Sir John's daughter or something, or and then they finally come for him. He's like, no, I'm going to stay here. Don't tell him I'm here. You know what I mean? It's just to me that was a little
yeah,
ungratifying.
and you get the feeling because it has him like sitting out there in the middle of nowhere with like a kid
Like maybe he
sleeping on
settled
his by
there.
his side. Like maybe he married
Yeah, I guess,
Silence, I
yeah.
guess,
Or maybe some other woman because
and
she's supposed to be
had a
alone.
kid.
Like
And
Silence always is alone, and that's we accepted it.
yeah, but at the last, it indicated that he was trying to go find her. He was running off
Yeah,
trying to find her where she's at, and that didn't really explain that if he found her or not. It just had him in the middle of a field of rocks with a kid, and just kind of like him. And at first, I thought it was just like a still shot, but then you see the snow and stuff blowing across. It's like he's just sitting there
well, I was
like a
thinking maybe he was
statue.
ice fishing. I was thinking maybe I was thinking waiting. He was gonna like. I was thinking he was gonna be there, and all of a sudden it was gonna show him jab a seal and pull it out like he's become full Eskimo. And I thought to myself, well, the thing about that, yes, what like there is no foreshadowing or any kind of hint that he and Silence had any kind of romantic feelings for each other. So I found that very far fetched that they would end up bit together, unless she's just like, well, I'm very stoic. You will be my man now. That's I don't know, but I no, I felt
There was no
what's
explanation.
sad
Yeah,
though, and maybe it's part of our culture now too, is that white man bad. So to me, I felt like there could be no decent people. Now there was uh Doctor a good sir, or what's his name?
good
Yeah,
sir. Yeah, I was gonna call him good fellow, but
Doctor
it's good
Good Sir
sir.
was like the one wholesome guy, and
That was
yeah,
my
and the
favorite
sad
character.
thing is like when yeah, when Mister what's his name the Mr. Hinky or Hickey
Hickey.
he reverts to cannibalism and they start eating everybody, and then he's like his best friend, he ends up killing him, and then he's like tells Mr. Good Sir, you got to chop him up. I can't chop him up, I killed him, but I'm not gonna. You got to tell us which pieces of meat. And he doesn't want to do it, but like for whatever reason he does it and chops up the body or whatever for them to eat, and everything. I thought that was the most disturbing and kind of funny ironic thing where when Mr. Dr. Goodsir tells uh Captain Crozier, like, don't eat me, no matter what, don't eat me when they if they try,
Eat the
only
toughest
eat my
part, like
feet,
the
you know what I'm
heel.
saying?
Yeah.
And so he's like poisoning the people with his own body because they know that they're going to eat him. And I thought that was kind of funny. It was like, not funny, it was like a kind of a twist, you know, like
It's kind of like an
a
fu
cold
to the.
revenge, a cold revenge. But I
Yeah.
felt like that line when he said at the end there, he was like, "I'm not a doctor. If I ever was, I certainly am not now," or something, because it's like his guilt that he had for chopping up the corpse for food or whatever. But it did seem like obviously the whole movie is fiction because we don't know what happened to them. But it seemed like when they were carrying around all the sick people, it's like everything bad that could happen did happen. I mean, everybody got lead poisoning, the food was poisoning them, and then you got this demon monster. The I forgot what they called it, but it was supposed to be like. At first, I thought it was like a polar bear, and then they start talking about it's a spirit, and then it's like the abominable snowman or something.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's kind of like that. Going back to the cannibalism thing, when they were eating Doctor
Yeah,
Goodsir, I was thinking, did they forget how to make fire?
exactly. I was like,
Because
hey, I like, hey, I
they
like,
hit
hey,
like raw. I'm
we got
like,
on this whole
they have
long
wood.
expedition. We got canned food. Did nobody bring a little salt and pepper and like a barbecue pit? We can just like, you know, I'd be like, hey, look, we're going this far. I want my meat like well done. I'm normally I like a medium rare steak, but in that case, I'd be like, it's got to be cooked. We don't. Nobody have a little, a little. But maybe they ran out of fuel for the fire. I don't know. I'd chop up one of those
I don't
canoes or
know, but
something.
they were pulling those longboats around, the lifeboats in case they ran into water, and they're made of wood. I'm
Yeah,
pretty
I
sure.
would think so too. I thought it was interesting because I didn't quite understand the magical lore behind Silence cutting out her tongue and her father, the shaman, cut out his tongue or a piece of his tongue,
Yeah, I
and
didn't
then I
understand
guess
either.
like she offered it to the spirit or the monster, and so it didn't eat her, right? And then Mr. Hickey did that to himself, but that thing just ate him anyways. And I was thinking like maybe it was like the monster like would be like it knows this guy's an asshole. I don't care. It's like you're not fooling me with chopping your
I,
tongue off. That's supposed to be like for a good person to do that, I guess.
I took that as, because her dad
Yeah.
was the shaman, and then she was a shaman, like he was training her to be a shaman. I took that as, okay, to be able to control that, to cut your tongue off, and be able to control that
Hmm.
spirit or whatever, you had to be part of that
Yeah.
shaman family. I don't think it was just some random guy could just cut his tongue off
Yeah.
and
He doesn't
control it.
understand the
And
whole
that's what Hickey
implications of
thought he
that.
could do. And he was like, oh, and he did that. And, it's like the monster's like, who do you think you are? Ow.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was a long series, so they had time. They could do character development. I think that's the thing about like a movie. A lot of times you don't have time for slow character development. But I like the other officer, his James Fitzjames was a character that I thought
Yeah.
we learn more about his like that. He has an epic ending to his personality because you see like he came
Uh-huh.
from nobody and he wanted to be somebody, and then there's that scene with Captain Crozier and I don't know if it's Officer James. What would you call him? It was Lieutenant or James Fitzjames. I can't remember what he was.
Lieutenant. Lieutenant. It's the British
Yeah,
equivalent
but
of
I
a
think he was
lieutenant.
higher ranking. He was like the second. Maybe
He
it's the
was
first mate, but I don't know. The lieutenant, it seems like the
commander.
lowest form of an officer. I think
I think he was commander.
Commander Fitzjames or whatever. But I thought he had
Yeah,
a very
he was
heroic
a
part in the
commander.
movie where he's like telling him his story, and now I don't care. And then he's like, the Captain Crozier, puts his hand on it. We're doing this for friendship, for brotherhood, and like at the end, he says, "You have to eat me. Give my body to the men." It's like so they kind of like have some good people in there and stuff, and then I don't know. It's implied that Mr. Hickey steals his clothes, so you think maybe they ate him too because he had his boots and his jacket. I guess it's kind of, in my opinion,
Hmm.
implied that they probably ate him. I don't know, but all these guys were all diseased anyway, so I wouldn't be wanting to eat no person who's got these like you know, it's kind
Yeah.
of.
It
But
was.
back then, I guess the cannibalism wasn't so choosy as it is today. I guess I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it was very
Yeah.
well acted, and I'm a big fan of Jared
Mhm.
Harris anyway. I loved him in like Sherlock Holmes, the second Sherlock Holmes with
Yeah.
Robert Downey Jr. He played
Mhm.
Moriarty, and if people don't understand who he is, he's in the background
Yeah.
right now. He's on
Yeah,
your screen right now.
I have it playing in the background on
And
purpose.
then there's the
Yeah, yeah.
John.
Yeah, he's a good actor too. He just seems a very good British Victorian style actor. Um, yeah,
And man, he dies so
it's so sudden
horribly.
too.
I
I
mean,
was
that
not expecting
monster
it at
comes out
all.
of you're like, it's going along and it's a drama and everything's happening and you're talking to the people and then all of a sudden the monster just
Yeah,
is there. And it's like, holy crap! And then it's all chaos when the monster's
yeah,
there.
yeah. I
It's
guess
kind of
they kind of
crazy.
built this movie around a mystery as what happened to the terror, and so anybody with a great imagination can come up. Well, it was a killing snow monster thing that was out there, and they had to flee the ships. But I think that the whole point was that they were not going to get rescued, and they had to do something, and so they tried to make it overland, which is a good theory too. It made for a good drama, and it had a just human drama to
Mhm.
it as well. Um,
Well, they had those cairns, where they put like the log kind of thing in there where people could see it. They could on the land. They're cairns,
yeah,
cairns, whatever the big
yeah.
rock pile. And
Were those like time
so
capsules or something? It
they,
was supposed to be like just
yeah, kind of like time capsules where people could see those and they could kind of get a ship's
yeah.
log or whatever. And by the way, they're trying to preserve and get the ship's log out of the actual HMS Terror to see what actually happened, why they abandoned the ships. So that really did happen in real
So
life.
the
But
ship's still
so
down
anyway,
there in the frozen water. So they haven't like
yeah,
excavated it because it's down in the water.
right. I haven't really. I forgot if the Erebus is. I think the Erebus is sunk too, but I know for sure the Terror sank, and they don't know why it sank, and probably the ice pushed it over or something. But anyway, it's pretty well preserved for being
Yeah.
underwater. Um, but that Karen, the thing I was talking about that is they. I forgot my point about that. That's how they know that in real life they abandoned
Yeah.
the ship.
Because
They
there's no
abandoned the
bodies
ships.
there.
That's because they wrote it on that thing, and that's how they know in real life. So they know that they left the ships. They don't know why, and they don't know what happened to them after they left the ships
Well,
in real
wouldn't they just
life.
run out of food eventually? I mean, like, would they have to go somewhere?
Probably.
Yeah.
And when people, the history of I don't know, just not just necessarily white men, but anytime you're in a area like that, and there's like indigenous people. Anytime you try to get help from them, it works at first, and then they get stupid, and maybe they killed them all or something, or maybe they integrated
Yeah.
like HMS Bounty when they mutinied, and they ended up living on an island and fathering a bunch of children or something. Maybe it was something like that, and just
Yeah,
nobody
it'd be
knows. I don't know.
hard to
Nobody
tell.
knows.
I mean the record keeping of all that too, and just the harsh the weather is. So you don't know how many would have survived from the freezing cold. I mean, they, I don't know, like getting caught in such a harsh weather. That's the series was very well done. I would just say the ending seemed a little drawn out, but I'm sure they had a situation where it was like, we have to do 10 episodes, so we gotta have to space this out. So I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure like that's how Netflix is. Like we got you 10 episodes. Can you imagine you're like, okay, I got a story and it's about 6 episodes long, but I need 10. You know what I mean? What would you do? You'd be like, oh, okay. Well, there's this monster and it's out there killing people, but you can't kill it. Um, but and then we got a mutiny, and the mutiny part too that drove me crazy. Like in my mind, I was thinking, who is really going to follow this loser? Now that's the other thing I thought was really intense when he had those men kidnap Silence, the Eskimo, and he's talking back to the captain, and the captain's like, 15 lashes, and he's like, he keeps talking, running his mouth, 20 lashes, 30 lashes, whipped as a boy. And I was like, what's this whipping as a boy thing? And then you find out it's like he gets the lashes on his hind rear end. So it was like kind of embarrassing, more embarrassing. I thought that was very intense.
Yeah,
That
instead of
was
his
very
back.
intense. That
Yeah,
was very intense. But I found it hard to believe that
yeah,
anybody would follow that guy after that. I'd be like, yeah, this guy, man, I'm not following him.
yeah. I wouldn't follow him, and yeah, and going back to the creepy part I was talking about, they stick a little creepy stuff in there. I'll give people an example because we're in the spoiler part. Is they put a guy in a diving
Yeah.
bell suit, the old timey diving suits, and they drop him down in there, and he's trying to move ice out of the rudder because those ships were equipped with a
Mhm.
steam engine, and so there was ice on the propeller, and it was keeping the propeller from moving. So he had to go down and knock it free. And a little bit before that, a guy had
Yep.
fallen in to the water, and then they couldn't get him out, and he froze. And so he was down there, and when he finished, he was trying to get him to pull him up. And he looks over to the side, and that guy is just floating
Yeah,
towards
but,
him.
you think about it, he couldn't have been there because they'd already gone certain ways, so you would think he would have been way back in the back.
Yeah. So what
Must have been
was
a
that? Yeah.
hallucination, but also, can you imagine how cold it would be getting in one of those suits into, like, freezing water? I don't understand how you wouldn't get hypothermia going down even if there's no water in the suit. I just think it would be so freaking cold in one of those suits.
Well, that's another thing about the series. I mean, it was really well acted, and they did have coats and stuff, and they bundled up everything. But nobody was ever like, you know, cold
Yeah, and
or
you know what was
it
kind of
seemed like.
odd too is when they finally made the expedition, south, it seemed like everything got hot, but they're still wearing, like, you didn't see a lot much ice, and it seemed like they were not they're, like, sweating and stuff, and I never really saw them worrying about the cold again, but I would be if you're trying to escape that area and you're just like a forced march south, I'd be thinking like, "Man, we got to get some distance because it's going to be a cold winter out here." I mean, in the Arctic. I mean, because if you think about it too, like the Arctic, and then there's Canada below that. You know what I'm saying? And it's still pretty cold in Canada. You know what I mean? I would be thinking like, because I
Yeah.
mean, it gets really cold in Canada and Alaska and places like that. So if you're trying to go south of the North Pole, I don't know.
But like in the background there, you see the ship. It's all covered in like frost and stuff. You'd think they'd be like really
Yeah.
cold. They don't ever seem like they're all that cold, and their faces really aren't like red from
I think
cold
at
or
one
anything.
time I saw that was really cold is when Captain Crozier puts a spyglass to his eye, and then it like rips his
Aren't it
skin off
stuck?
when he
Yeah,
takes it off. Not big, but just a little, gets him a little bit because the metal
yeah, I
gets
remember
stuck to
that.
it. So
Yeah,
that was a good sign of that. But I would imagine it would have been so freaking cold. I like this one character who got his leg amputated. He was a really funny character, and he was helping to shoot the monster with a cannon, and he was like pretty brave. I thought that character was an interesting character, and then he met his
yeah.
end towards the end. What was that guy's name? The guy who played?
It was. I was trying to think. It
I can't remember.
was it
Yeah, I think
Thomas?
that
No,
sounds like it,
was it?
but I'm not sure. But anyways, he was like one of
Uh,
the main
yeah, that's right.
ship, like a quartermaster or something like that, and he was one of Captain Crozier's good friends or whatever. Um, but yeah, it was a good show. I'll give it 4 stars. So
I'd probably give it 4 stars, but like I said, it's kind of hard to get to the last two episodes. But everything else is like
to
top
me, the
notch,
monster part,
and
the
so
terror part of it was just like I didn't even need that because I felt like just the whole idea of surviving the cold, and you probably would have the threat of a mutiny. There'd be somebody thinking I could do this better than the captain, and there's all those kind of factions. All that alone was enough drama to keep it going. The pacing, I think, just kind of wore out towards the end. The last 2 episodes, just the pace. They could have shoved that into the end of episode 8, and it would probably been okay. So
yeah, and I don't know if you've ever read the book Frankenstein by
no.
Mary Shelley, but it starts off with it's an Arctic expedition, and the captain, um, Captain Walden, he's they're stuck in the ice
Yeah.
like on that, and Doctor Frankenstein and Frankenstein's monster is out in the Arctic, and they keep hearing this monster like, "Arr!" and then Doctor Frankenstein comes up and tells the ship captain the story of Frankenstein basically, and so it kind of reminded me of that a little bit because it's very similar to that kind of thing. You had the monster and you had you know uh, the things going on, and I had a point to that because you reminded me of it, and now I've lost that
Sorry
point.
about that.
It starts off the same way, and what was the point? Um,
Well, I know what
but
I said, but I don't know if this ties in what you're saying. But I felt like I enjoyed the whole story without even the story of the monster. But again, that's the whole point, I guess, because that. Sure.
Oh, I remember what it was now. The point was that his people were also wanting to go back and they were about to mutiny. So I think that anybody gets in, it's the same kind of deal. They were about to, like, hey, we need to, we're not going to be able to make it. We're not going to be able to stay here when it thaws. We need to go home. And the captain was like, no, we're going to go no matter what, to find this, to the North Pole or where he was trying to make it to. And the men were like, "All right, let's mutiny."
Yeah.
You know? So that seems to be
Yeah.
happening a
It would
lot in
be a
that
terrible situation. It
stories.
would be life or death. People would be making all kinds of decisions. Yeah, it was I think the point when they got to cannibalism, it wasn't the main group that got to pick cannibalism, but the mutiny group that were all pushing for cannibalism or whatever.
Hmm.
I just thought it was like there was a couple of good like dialogue parts too with I don't remember the name of the character who was given a story about when he went to communion for the first time and he felt like a good clean person and everything because he went to Catholic communion
Oh,
and then he was like and then after that, he said, "You know, I would have, if I was a brave man, I would kill Lieutenant Hickey, but I'm afraid, and I want to live, and I'm hungry." And it's like just basically saying like he's not the person he wishes he would be. But anyways, it's very. I felt just very true emotions and human emotions and stuff. It was kind of a dark, foreboding ending, kind of too. You're like, God, one of those movies where you're just like, cleanse my palate with something humorous, kind of sometimes the darkness of some of that, but it was good.
yeah. I was trying to find that guy's name, and I'm coming up without anybody here. But you have Good Sir Cornelius Hickey. He's the bad guy. Um, oh, was it Blanky? Thomas Blanky. That's
Blanky
it.
was the guy
It
who
was
lost
Mr.
his
Blanky.
leg.
Thomas Blanky. Yeah,
Yeah, fighting the monster.
his name. The character's name was Thomas Blanky. It was
Yeah.
Thomas. It was Blanky. Mr.
Yeah, he was a
Blanky.
very entertaining character. He had a lot of. He was like kind of a more of a unique, kind of brave character, I'd say. So I liked him. He was pretty cool.
And Kieran Hines plays John Franklin. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right because
Yeah,
it's Ciaran and it has a little hyphen. So Kieran, Syrian.
wasn't
I don't
that
know.
one ship doctor like just a total asshole? He was like, yeah, he didn't want to help
Yes.
anybody. It
Oh,
gets me
yeah.
so mad. And when
No, he was like.
no, I was like,
Sorry. Go ahead.
whenever Silence's father got shot accidentally when the monster was coming, the creature was coming, and they accidentally shot the shaman. That guy was just like, get him off the ship. We can't help him. He's just
Yeah.
completely just yeah. But you need characters like that that just makes you go, oh, what a jerk. What a
Yeah.
evil
I was
guy.
trying to find him, but I
That was
can't find him in
Stephen
here.
Stanley, I
Yeah.
think, who played Alistair Petrie. So Alistair Petrie, played Stephen Stanley, Doctor Stephen Stanley, I think.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And what's funny about that guy too is they were kind of coming to him trying to say that, hey, we have some mental problems and stuff. And he's like, well, I'm a doctor. Your mental stuff, and he ends up being
Yeah,
mental
yeah,
and
yeah,
burning.
yeah. Well, I think what happened with that guy was he was on an Arctic expedition before that they had to tragically walk back through the snow or whatever, and it was so terrible that he thought I don't know if he was mental or he thought like I'll just kill everybody and then that'll be a mercy killing or something.
We'll have to
Yeah,
deal with all
but I
that.
mean, I
Yeah,
could think of better ways to die than being burned to death, but I mean, I don't know. Seems like one of the more painful ways to die. But also, I get it. I actually thought about it afterwards, but like when they decide that the canned food is poisoned with lead poisoning or whatever,
Lid.
they make the decision to not tell the men because like what are you gonna do? Not have food, so you're gonna just have to feed them the poisoned food. That was like a really troubling, but at the same time, I could see that happening where they're like, yeah, it's a hard call to make. Like we don't have any other food. There's no game to hunt. So what would you do? Just be like, that's a
Yeah. I mean, that place was barren, even on the land. I mean, they did it. They actually filmed it in Croatia, like on an island in
yeah,
Croatia. I looked it up because I was like, "Where is this
yeah,
place?" Because it was like the
yeah,
moon.
exactly. It's crazy. Well, hey, we better keep moving on.
You know, there-
Let's have 4 stars for the Terror. I think it's a good series. Check it out. It's on Netflix. 10 series. As Cleve has proven, you can binge watch it in a couple days. So yeah,
yeah, I watched like 8 episodes, and I watched two the
yeah.
next day. So I did it all
Wow.
at once, and it's like watching a big long
Yeah.
movie that way. But like you said, it's good. You can do it that way until you get to around, I don't know, episode 6, and then 7 and 8 was kind of okay, yeah. And then by 9 and 10, I was like, okay,
Yeah.
okay, somebody
Yeah,
die or
yeah, it was
something.
rough. I gotta tell you, like I was really hating that guy, Mr. Hickey, at that point, and like his smiling and stuff was just getting on my nerves.
They almost hang him at that one point, and I was like, oh, and
Yeah,
then he
my
gets away.
God, Yeah, that I was looking forward to his hanging. I was like, "Yeah, this guy earned it."
It was like,
When he
finally, and then he
killed
gets
those
away.
Eskimos, I was just like, you know, what I liked about that too is it showed the character of Captain Crozier, like the mental astuteness, like he's like doing a real investigation, and they're literally doing an investigation. I thought that was showed like prudence, like he was really trying to get to the facts, what happened here. You know what I'm saying? You know, and I felt
Mhm.
like even after that, like why would anybody follow this guy? Like, hey, I killed some kids, but you know what? Big deal. You know, he lied to you.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know. I would just be. But anyways, and even
I
when
agree.
whenever they take the captain hostage, now we keep going back to the story. They take captain hostage, and the one guy who the last remaining officer or whatever, the highest ranking officer is like, we're gonna go back and we're gonna rescue the captain. We have enough men, and they're like, nah, I think we're gonna just keep moving on,
We're just gonna
and we're
take
gonna leave
off.
all these sick people to die.
Yeah, we're gonna, yeah, because they posited that scenario to the captain before, and he's like, "We're not gonna leave everybody behind." And then when the captain was gone, he was like, "We're leaving everybody
Yeah,
behind.
and I mean,
We're going ahead
it
with that
made like a
plan."
very heroic, like we'll all die together if we don't, one for all and all for one. And then when the captain was gone, was like, no, screw that. We're one of us.
And it was kind of cool. That was kind of cool. I think it was the next to last episode where he actually came across the captain came across
Yeah,
those
they're
people,
all, well,
and they
spoiler,
were
they're dead. The
gone. They
one
were
guy was
all.
like barely alive, and I didn't understand why he had all this jewelry in his beard with the
I didn't
piercings.
either. I was like,
Where'd
"What?
they get the gold?
Did they sacrifice a calf?" I mean,
Just
I don't
didn't
know what's
make any
going on.
sense. That had made no sense to me at all. It's like even my girlfriend was like, "I missed something. What's the jewelry in his beard? What the piercings?"
Yeah, yeah. I thought the same exact thing. I was like, because he had chains all over his, like he was some sort of Eskimo himself, or
But
not even
where'd you get
Eskimo.
that
It's like
gold anyways? Like
he was from
they
South
pierced his nose
America.
and his cheeks and his ears and stuff, and I didn't know if that was some kind of torture or if it was like I don't know if he stole that from the Eskimos. I have no idea.
I was thinking maybe they did some sort of ritual dance out there or something and tried to get the gods to rescue
Yeah,
them.
it
I don't know what they
didn't
were
make any
doing.
sense, but it was okay. I
It
mean,
didn't. It didn't
yeah, it didn't
explain
really
it.
explain it, but it was added to the I don't know what it added to, but
Yeah.
it was cool. All right, so the terror was
That,
good. Let's go on
or,
because we got still some more to talk about. We're running late, but that's fine. No, there's no schedule on this thing, so hold on. Let's gonna pause for a commercial, and we'll be right back. Have you read Red Mage Ascending, the Mage of Blood Magic, in the Tournament of Mages Book 1 by Cleve Bourbon? The servant girl has a secret, and she's hiding it in plain sight. Hannah works for a well-to-do family who treats her well, but something is not quite right. The servant girl doesn't act like a servant. She speaks with multiple languages, including High Elvish. She is a skilled musician and a talented artist. There is also another talent, but its secret Hannah guards closely. She can use blood magic. She is hiding because she knows if she is found out, she will have to fight in the Tournament of Mages, a contest where she will be pitted against 5 other mages with different forms of magic. She has left everything behind, her family, her friends, and the one secret she dares not reveal. Now available on Kindle, audiobooks on Audible, in hardcover and paperback. Find it online on Amazon Kindle, Barnes & Noble's, iBooks, Kobo, and wherever you buy good books. This book is by Cleve Bourbon. Buy it now. Have you read The War Drums of Canth by Merick N.H. Ulrik, a high fantasy dwarven military fantasy? The War Drums of Canth. It's long been known that the Viclogs are the last stand of freedom in the land of Delantia, and the treachery of the Blood Queen. The dwarves settled the land long before she rose to power, but they were not the first inhabitants of the Viclogs. Orcians, trolls, kobolds, and even fouler creatures ruled the land. Only a dwarf would be obstinate enough to persist amongst such dangers. Now they face their greatest danger of all. Will they unite or perish? Before the tales of Vandrin the Valorian, and before the mighty drunken swordsman Gunnar Bannerbur, 1,000 years, peace reigned in the Viclogs, but before that time of peace was 1,000 years of war. Dwarven clans warred against each other for power and control of the land. Political alliance and plots and old grudges from 800 years of feudalism keep the region in turmoil. But will a growing Orcian threat unite or destroy them? This is epic fantasy, military fantasy, high fantasy, and dark fantasy. The War Drums of Camp by Merick, N.H. Ulrik. Now on Amazon Kindle Unlimited. All right, we're back. So I kind of I don't know, say like just threw this at Cleve to review this album. It's Pistolero by Frank Black and the Catholics. So we may be I might be kind of late reviewing this because it came out in 1999. So some of you guys, it's a new release. It's only 25 years old. So so if I mean you want to get it before it's like 30 years old already. So anyways, but there's a reason I really love this album. I don't listen to it every day, and I was thinking about it. So this is kind of a weird review to do. It's so if people are not familiar with Frank Black, he is the lead singer of Pixies, and he's also the songwriter for Pixies. And so there was a long time, there's about a decade, I think, that Pixies were broken up, and then he did a bunch of side albums. So Frank Black had a lot of material between Pixies, and now they're back together and they're playing shows and they have a couple albums. So, sorry, Cleve, I threw this on you, and it's a weird album, kind of. It's kind of a weird album, but I'm a okay. So I don't. It's okay. Be honest. You don't have to tell me. You don't lie what you don't like or whatever. But I have a real soft spot in my heart for this album. A friend of mine showed it to me, I would say probably in 2004, 2005. And certain parts of this really inspired me as a musician because I have a philosophy about music is that Frank Black doesn't take himself too seriously in his writing. A lot of his writing seems very off the cuff, and he's more about, I wouldn't say quantity over quality, but not taking him. He's very loose, very loose. And I saw an interview um, about him in right after the release of Doolittle by the Pixies in like 1987, and they had a very candid interview. He was interviewed by German media, and he said that rock and roll is not serious. It's he says it's the boheme. It's like, you can't have rock and roll without having dinner and supper. It's like the dessert. It's not like it's extra stuff of your life. So it's not it's the excess kind of, you know what I'm saying? It's like not like I mean, it's anyways, I don't know if I explained this right, but he explains like rock and roll is not about the lyrics, it's more about the feeling. And when he explained this, he was like, a wop bob a loo bob a wop bum bam tutti frutti. That's a comparison he gave to it. It's like, what is that? That's not serious. That's so, and so I think that really shows in this album. But I really want to dive a little deeper in it. So I'm guessing you haven't heard this album before, or have you? Were you aware of this album?
No, no. The, I mean, I wouldn't say you sprang it on me like you did. I mean, but I didn't have any context. And this one, I didn't really research who he was or anything. I just kind of went. I just went this time. I just went by the music. So I didn't really try to
Yeah,
look into the background of anything. I didn't really because I hadn't. Okay, I'm kind of weird with this. When it's something I don't know anything about, like music, for example, I'll try to. And I'm going to review it. I try to base everything on just what the music is without knowing anything about the background because I don't want to be colored or
yeah,
swayed one way or the other by who it is. I'd known if
yeah.
he was lead singer of the Pixies, I might have felt differently about it than I do now. But it totally makes sense that what you just said about him not taking it seriously. That totally makes sense with the album now.
Yeah. Uh, I will start with the song "Bad Harmony." That song showed me as a singer songwriter that a song could have a electric guitar part that is the hook, but not a solo. Because when I was younger, I always thought there's chords and then there's this guitar solo. But the hook in that song is this riff, and it's like da 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 da. And it's a bad harmony. We are two wannabes going down this road to nowhere. I love this song, and so the album, the words of the song really get to me. All the songs that are maybe I'm very sentimental about this album, but I'm not offended if you don't feel the same way, because I think this album hit me at a certain time in my life where I needed to hear it, and what it did was it kind of gave me like a freedom to feel like I could express myself without judgment of this, because I felt like um again in that interview when in 87 in your I didn't watch the interview in 87. I watched it on YouTube probably like in 2006 or something. But he said they asked him, what do you want out of your career of music? And he says, I want a stack of records this thick that I created. And I thought that was pretty cool because records are real thin, and he's like, a stack this thick and I'll be happy. I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, I like the silliness of the lyrics and a lot of the stuff, because it is kind of silly. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
that's what I was gonna say.
Uh,
It makes sense now.
what any thoughts? What were your takeaways, first of all, if you don't mind?
Okay, so unlike with the terror, where I went back and did a lot of research, like I said, when I'm doing music I've never heard of before, I always want to listen to music first and not do any background, because it will sway me in some way. So I kind
Yep.
of got. I don't know if you ever heard of this band before. You ever heard of Bad Religion?
Yeah,
It kind
yeah,
of gave me Bad Religion vibes, somewhat, especially his voice, because I didn't know who he was. I didn't know he was the lead singer of the Pixies because I've never heard it before. And so
yeah,
I was kind of like, this kind of sounds like Bad Religion to me, because there's a couple of Bad Religion albums that I was a really huge fan of that I loved. And so I was kind of, because the way his voice sounds and everything, it's kind of reminded me of that a little bit. And then I started listening to the lyrics, and I was kind of like, this is really what? Kind of silly. And
yeah,
so that's what I was going to say. I was going to say it's very well produced. The music is awesome. I love the
yeah,
music of it, and it has some catchy stuff in it too. And I was like, oh, this is cool. Sometimes his voice, like I said, kind of made me, who is this?
it's
Yeah,
kind of
it's kind
weird,
of
right?
weird. And
It's
so, probably not my style, except, it
Yeah,
harkened me back to Bad Religion. I think you and I have,
yeah. When you're talking about Bad Religion, I think you're talking about the
yeah,
guitar and the
right.
structure of the music, because it's very just
Yes,
straightforward rock
yes.
and roll in most
Yeah,
parts.
Bad Religion
Some
is just
parts it
like
gets a
boom,
little
boom, boom.
yeah, it gets kind of punk, and some of it's kind of gets like weird punk kind of stuff, screaming and stuff. But mostly it's like that, just straightforward, just
Yeah,
rock. You know?
yeah. And so when I was listening to it, I was thinking, oh, it kind of gives me that. But I was thinking, he and I have very different tastes in music, and it's okay.
Yeah,
So, being on a
yeah,
podcast like this where we're reviewing music, it's kind of good that way,
yeah,
because then we're not an echo
yeah,
chamber. We're not like,
yeah. I
you're
agree.
not telling me that, oh, I love everything you love, and I love everything you love. Seeing,
Yeah, yeah.
Linkin Park came with a new
So,
song, and I love
so
it.
some of those lyrics in the songs just pop into my head sometimes when I'm just uh, driving around, or where I'm talking to somebody. I can remember times whenever I would be when I was single, but that's before I was dating a supermodel, Playboy model. Anyways, I would think of the lines from that song, "I Love Your Brain." It's like that's such a silly song. I love your brain. Want to sleep with your brain. I love your brain. You got a beautiful brain. It's just so stupid.
Yeah,
Other songs where I think it's what is it? West? Which one it says? I think it's. I can't think of the name. Which of the song has that line? It's like, "Why do you hate me? Why can't you just simmer down? We could be doing great things, except instead you're putting me down."
yeah,
And then the next verse she says, "Why do I hate you? That's because I'm totally full of it." It is really
yeah,
silly. I mean, I, and again, like even like track 12 is "I Want to Rock and Roll." Like, there you get this is straight, just like silly. Like, I'm not ashamed to say I want to rock and roll. I want to rock and roll. It is really silly. I get in a weird state of mind when I listen to it. Um, "You're Such a Wire" is a great song. You're such a wire. I think that's the song that says, that's the song where it goes, why do you hate me? Why can't you just simmer down? I can't tell you how many girls I've said that to,
Simmer
just in my
down.
life, where I'd be like just singing like, hey, I just be like, I just start singing, why do you hate me? Why can't you just simmer down? I don't know. It's just such a, the whole, and you know what? Bad Harmony though. That guitar riff really inspired me. I have a song that sounds nothing like that song, but I created a riff that I think I didn't steal it from that, because if you could listen to that song and listen to the song that I wrote, you would see no similarities probably. But it has a guitar riff that repeats over and over in the song, and I could just listen to that over and over. Just sounds like a fun riff to play. I don't know. I am definitely I am what's the word, biased, because I really like everything that Pixies does, and I can't think of anything I didn't like of there. It's just because I think that's so weird. I would say if you listen to this record, you're not going to hear one radio hit on here. I wouldn't guess,
Yeah, but
in my
that's
opinion. I
true. But
can't
it's
see.
not. They're not like slow, like boring songs either. You know, you might not hear a radio song on there, but it's still catchy. It's still got good music in it. You know, it's still good rock and roll.
Yeah,
So I mean, there's nothing in there that's going to be like, especially not I guess mainstream. I don't know what is mainstream, but anyway,
you know, I don't know if you've listened to Dave Bowie before he died. Dave Bowie before he died, he talked about
there's new
Pixies
Texas coming
and
out. David Bowie. Here we go.
David
It's Bowie.
Bowie. David Bowie.
Bowie is
David
like
Bowie.
Bowie now.
Sorry.
That's like Jim Bowie. That
Bowie, my
comes from
friend.
our
Yeah,
Texas
Jim Bowie.
upbringing. But anyway,
Yeah, I know exactly. Dave Bowie talked about the Pixies and how underrated they are in the United States. That actually they have a very big European following, and if you look online too, like on YouTube, you'll see these huge concerts they have, like in Germany and in France and England, Germany especially. They have like a very Western, Eastern Europe. Or Western, I don't know, Eastern Europe following there. A lot of those countries, they just seem very well accepted there for some reason. They're very big over there, and they just have so many albums. And I think he did an album before the Pixies got back together. And there's Into the Blue, I think is the name of it. And it just, anyways, he has a song too called it's on that. It's an album for that. It's called "When They Come to Murder Me," and that's not a Pixie song, but I tell you, that's one of those songs that's right up there. That's like one of my favorite songs he's ever written in, and it's that whole. And it was weird because he has Frank Black and the Catholics, and then he has a couple albums that are just Frank Black, and then he has several albums that are Black Francis. And it was so funny when he was describing it, like he's like, they asked him, "Why did you change your name to Black Francis?" And he's like, I have been and always will be Black Francis. It's just so weird. But he has a song called "When You Come to Murder Me," and it's just I just love his writing style. It's so silly. I guess is what you call it. It's just you never can tell if he's being serious really in any of these songs.
yeah, and I guess he's not. But yeah, it makes complete sense to me now when you said at the beginning of this where you were like, yeah, it's not. He said it was bob bam blue bob bam bam blue, blue, whatever, tutti frutti.
Yeah, wop baba loo
Yeah,
baba
I never
wop
could
bam
sing
bam pooty fruity.
that.
What does
when,
that mean?
when he was
Yeah,
saying, it's completely goofy. What does that mean?
yeah,
And then so it's like, oh,
yeah,
okay, now I get the album. It's like I didn't get it until
yeah.
just then. I was like, oh, I get it now.
Yeah, Skeleton Man's another one that I'm a skeleton man. I'm a skeleton man. Hold my hand. And that's just
That was gonna be my
I
criticism. Is
think
like some of the lyrics are like me, but it
well,
makes
I
sense
feel
now.
like what he does is he seeks to rhyme first and make sense later.
Yeah, I mean the thing
I
is,
do
what
think,
what we're not conveying probably to everybody if they've never heard of him before is the music is really good. I
yeah.
mean, the lyrics may be kind of goofy and stuff, but it's not it's not badly produced music. It's good music.
Yeah, and this album's very I would say it's not badly produced, but it's really not
No,
overproduced either. It sounds like
rock and
they
roll.
did these in a few takes and it's just rocking. Um it's kind of like if a guy who just made an album said like I knew what I wanted to do and I just did it, it sounds like that kind of. It's just a I'm trying to explain the guitar playing I think of Frank Black is really good because you hear a song, none of the songs go like, I've heard that before. Or, yeah, that sounds, because nowadays with rock music or pop music, everything kind of seems like it's like something that they already cooked up in a microwave, and they'd be like, yeah, well, let's put in these chop cards and these chum cards, and like just kind of cook it up in a. What I'm trying to say is like you can tell like he didn't have five producers on this record being like, well, let's see, I think I got a song for you here, Frank.
Yeah, let's
Let's
put in this weird sound over here that we, because we clanked on these bricks or something. Yeah, they didn't do that kind of stuff. Yeah.
yeah, but it's anyways, I'm a big fan of Frank Black, everything he's done. So I'm a super fan, I guess. So, but this album inspired me, so it's very close to my heart because I got this like probably right when I was during my divorce or my first divorce. During my first divorce, let's talk about that.
I
But
call
yeah, and
that
I felt like I was at a
AD.
low point, and when I heard this album, it really inspired me as a musician, and I think it got me to think like you could do anything. If this guy can make this album, but he's again, I'm discounting the fact that he's actually a really good musician. And singing wise, you might think he sings weird, but I mean, he's got a character voice that he does what he does. You can't nobody else could be or somebody else could be him, but it just he is who he is. And if you've ever seen Frank Black play, it's so funny because he's a pudgy white dude who's got like shaved head. Is just a funny looking guy, but he just totally rocks. You know what I'm saying? Um, I don't know if I even today, like he looks the same. Like he's got to be like in his mid 60s. He looks pretty much the same. I've watched some of the videos of him and stuff on there, and one thing about his shows too that I really respect is a lot of my friends have been to Pixie shows, and I've watched a bunch of them online. I haven't been able to actually go to one myself, which is one of my biggest regrets. I got to go to see one of the shows, but they will play for like 4 hours. And I've heard this and I've heard everybody say this. He doesn't have a set list. The band doesn't have a
Mm.
set list. The band has to be ready to play whatever he comes up with. So they have like a huge catalog and they just go. They just go from one song to the
Wow.
next. And that just shows really polished musicianship too. Cause like, I mean, all the musicians in that band have to be like in their early 60s, I think, right now. Cause I mean, they came out first couple albums came out in the mid to early 80s, and it was way before grunge, so you might say they were pre-grunge. You think about, I mean, very inspirational. In fact, that song by Toadies, I think it's Possum Kingdom, or what's it called? Is it Possum Kingdom? Is it that song or the album?
Mm.
But Toadies have this song that really sounds like the beginning of a Pixies song. It's so funny when my brother was little, he was a teenager. He's like, "Oh, Pixies ripped off the Toadies," and I was like, "No, Andrew, they wrote that in the
It's the
'80s,
other way around.
and the Pixies came out in the '90s." So yeah, I mean that Toadies came out in the '90s. So, but anyways, you could say they ripped them off. It's just it happens every once in a while. You have a band that has a riff that sounds similar to
Well,
somebody
have you
else's
ever heard
song.
of the
It's not.
band Ghost?
Yes, yeah, and aren't they from Austin?
I don't know that, but they,
No, I'm thinking about someone else. Yeah, the ghost. Yeah, they dress up with the
yeah,
makeup and everything
yeah,
on.
they sound a lot like Blue Oyster Cult, like old Blue Oyster Cult, and you can tell. And
Oh yeah.
the lead singer has actually said he was influenced. So, and there's a lot of songs that you'll hear on Ghost. It's like this sounds like Blue Oyster Cult. I mean, if you're a Blue Oyster Cult fan, then you'll hear it. But if you've never heard of Blue Oyster Cult, then obviously you won't know what I'm talking about. But for you Gen Zs out there, but yeah, if you listen to Blue Oyster Cult, like a lot of Blue Oyster Cult, you can start hearing a lot of stuff in Ghost, and then you start realizing, oh, this is modern Blue Oyster Cult. So
Well, that's cool though. It makes me want to listen to Ghost now because I heard some of their stuff and I just didn't get too into them. The makeup and stuff kind of threw me off because it looked like they're doing like a Day of the Dead
yeah,
first blend of Day of the Dead with a Catholic
yeah, they're gimmick. I
like
mean,
a it kind of reminds me of like a satanic
that's what
cult
he's
of
going
priests or
for. It's
something.
like Papa Emeritus or whatever is like his name. It's not his real name. His real name is like Tobias Forge, I think, is his lead singer, and he's the only one really in Ghost, and all the other guys are players like from other bands, but they wear the masks so that no one knows who they are. So they
Yeah.
could be somebody from the Foo Fighters. You just never know who they are, and they play with it. It's um, they yeah, it's their gimmick. You know, their gimmick is the satanic stuff, and
Yeah, but I respect that because whatever you do to bring people in to watch the show, as a musician, I was thinking about that last night. I played at a birthday party for a 50th birthday party. A friend of mine, she used to own some bars around town and stuff. Carla, and sweet lady, and a friend of mine. And so I played for about an hour, and I was out of practice. I played some Alice in Chains songs. I played some originals, and I played that song. I played "Fell on Black Days" by Soundgarden. I played that song, and I threw my voice out a little bit. I started getting hoarse. I wasn't used to that because I was trying to do the Lane Staley sounding stuff, and I was trying to impress everybody with that. And then I did some originals too, and I did some screaming parts on some stuff. It was kind of crazy, but it went really good, and it was at a real honky tonk. I mean, it was like was a rough crowd. You know what I'm saying? But it's this crowd that comes out every Friday night, and so there's some rough characters. There's like a lady that I seen one time, and she came into this bar, and there was these young kids there, these young guys, and they're at this bar, right? This older lady came in this bar, and she was dressed, like real tight fitting clothing and everything, like with a skirt that just barely covers her rear or whatever, you know. And she looks older. I mean, you can see it in the face. She looks like she's got to be like 60 or something like
mhm.
that. Nothing bad. I mean, that people get old. That's fine. You know what I'm saying? But she's dressed really provocatively, right? And she's just kicking back these Bud Lights, right? And so these construction workers came in. This is not last night, but this lady was at this bar anyway. So I'll just say I was at this bar one time, and she comes in there, and these construction workers are wearing construction hats and stuff, and they had a beer, and they're like, "Well, we got to go. We got to work tomorrow." And she's like, "What? You got to work tomorrow? What? You got to work tomorrow?" She's like, I drink every night, and I work every day. I come in here, I stay till the last call every night, and I drink every night.
It's kind of sad,
And they're
lady.
like, and that those guys are like the young guys. They're like in their early 20s, and you can tell like they're just like, well, we're working from out of town. We had 2 beers. We got to go. We got to work tomorrow. And she's like, no, come on. And then she said, I'm 46 and I drink every night. And I was like, oh my God, she's 46. She looks like she's 60. And I was like, oh, I was like, well, that'll take it for drinking every night. There you go. There's a science behind that, I think. Anyways, that's a real rough thing to say. But anyways, last night I played some songs there at the bar, and that was the kind of crowd that was there, those kind of ladies. And my last song I played the Ninja Girl, and it was going good. People were jamming, but at these kind of bars too, like nobody's 100% paying attention. I mean, they are sometimes. Like I played some Alice in Chains songs, I saw people singing along, and they're all singing the words down in a hole, that kind of thing. And then I was playing some other songs, some originals, and I even did some looping pedal, so I played the chords on the rhythm on that, and then I walked around a little bit to some of the tables and just tried to show off with some little lead stuff, and that got people's attention and stuff, and that was kind of fun. But then, anyways, my last song I was playing the song "The Ninja Girl" that I want to do a Kickstarter for eventually. But anyways, we'll try to get that pretty soon. But anyways, and then a fight broke out. So these people were just throwing fists and stuff, and I didn't really know what was going on. So nobody's paying attention to me. And then I kind of stopped for a second, and then the one of my good friends who's kind of like running the party, he's like, just keep playing, like just play over it. This happens every week. And so I start playing, and it was just kind of
Wow.
weird, but it was fun. It was a funny, but it was like an anticlimactic ending because like at the last song, nobody was paying. They're all paying attention, breaking the
Well,
fight
do you
apart.
play often, like at home and practice, or you just go to it cold?
Well, the last gig I played out was like with another songwriter, and I was kind of backing him up with like lead fills on my guitar
Hmm.
and stuff. And so that was like 3 months ago, and my guitar had been sitting there like for like 2 or 3 months not playing. So I was cold. I was
Wow.
rough, but I have years of experience. I'm not saying so. I had to draw on stuff, and I had to do some originals because there wasn't that many covers that I had really solid, and I kind of screwed up. Not really. I don't think they would notice I screwed up, but I kind of missed up some lyrics and stuff. So it was good, but it was like I kind of did it because I needed to get out and do it again. and so I was just like, I kind of forced myself to do it, but it was a little
I know that
scary
if
at
you
certain
came to me right
points.
now
But
and said, "Hey, Mark, grab your bass. Let's go play this," or you know,
yeah, it's different when you're around the house. We'll say, let's just jam around the
I'd be
house, but
like,
it
"I
is
don't
rough.
remember how to play anything right
Yeah,
now."
I know. It was pretty bad, but I think like certain songs like I played so many times that I could dig deep on songs that I really knew, and those some of those songs were my original
Mhm.
songs. And I guess maybe I just getting older, I just don't care. I was like, let me just do it. I'm gonna do my best, and it was fun. I got good response. I had a lot of people singing along, and people. I did some bluesier songs, so could just do some like blues fills and stuff in between there, and that kind of worked good. And people kind of yeah, I kind of feel like people who are non-musicians, not always, but sometimes you can kind of I think they can kind of you can if you do a good job, you can kind of win them over with it's kind of like it's an
Mhm.
act. I act like I'm good, even if I'm not great. I just give them that false confidence, and but there's a few things that I do good, and I just try to lean into that,
Yeah, I mean, if I
and
were
then
playing right now, if you
yeah,
said, "Let's go play Cleve," I'd be like, "Okay, I could be able to, I could fake it." That's the good thing about the bass. I just got the root note,
yeah.
and I can always play an A.
Yeah, but
Okay,
there's probably some songs that you'd be like, okay, I can play that. Like, what is it? Just play "Knocking on Heaven's Door." You're like, yeah,
yeah,
that's 3 chords. We got
yeah,
that.
exactly.
It's in G.
I can play a
Okay,
lot of Blue
you
Oyster
know,
Cult.
we got
I can play
yeah,
"Burning for
yeah.
You" like in my sleep.
See, I would love to do that. That'd be fun. I would love to do some of those old songs. Or did Blue Oyster Cult sing that song "Don't Fear
Yep,
the Reaper"?
I
Yeah.
can play that
See, that
too,
would be a fun
and I
song to
can play
do. Don't
Godzilla.
know, don't know. More cowbell. I can just play the cowbell.
I can play that one. I can play. I can "Burning for You." God, I played that.
I'm
"Burning
burning
for
for
You." Yeah, I
you.
can play that one very very easily. I can do that right now. But
Yeah.
the other one, "Don't Fear the Reaper," and I can do Godzilla. You know, um,
Yeah.
you know,
That'd be cool.
don't
So
go
it's
like
funny that
that.
last night when I played last night, uh, a lady came up to me, kind of like interrupting my. I started kind of playing the chords of a song I was about to play, and I was actually kind of playing the chords a little longer so I could actually remember them. You know what I mean? I was like just like making sure I could run through the chorus or run through the verse real quick. And anyways, this lady came up to me and she was like, "Hey, I'm loving it. You're sounding so good." She was like, "Can you play some Tom Petty?" And I was like, "Yes, I can." Because I tell you
I
what,
can play some
I
Tom
had a
Petty.
band. I had a band, and we I kept throwing Tom Petty songs into the list, and my best friend was like, "Man, I love Tom Petty, but we have more Tom Petty songs on this list than any other artist, and so like we got to hold off on adding any more Tom Petty songs." So I did a little medley of like I won't back down, and
Yeah,
then
I
I
can play
did
that song.
and then I played Last Dance
Yeah,
with Mary Jane, which doesn't really transition well. I just did it anyways because that was an easy one. And that felt good because I did know something. Now, if somebody came up to me and asked me, like, play some Freebird, I'd be like,
yeah. Good
sorry.
luck. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. What's the
And
other?
so certain songs, the song that you have to know that I don't know that we have to know if we played out is you got to play that Sweet Home
I hate
Alabama.
that
Everybody
song
wants
so
to hear
much.
that. I hate it too, but everybody, one time I was
Oh
in
God.
Vegas. I was in Las
Oh,
Vegas. I was in Las Vegas, and I walked into this bar on Fremont Street, and the band was playing a Bob Dylan song, and I'm a big Bob Dylan fan, so I was like, "That's cool. You never hear that." They're playing, I can't, some old Bob Dylan song, and it was kind of cool. And then right after that, they went to Sweet Home Alabama, and I was like, "Yeah, every bar plays this song, Sweet Home Alabama. Every
oh
band plays this
God.
song." And when they were done, they stopped, and you could hear across the street the other bar was playing Sweet Home Alabama. The other band, so it's like you could hear dun 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 dun
Oh
dun dun,
God.
and then they stopped, and everybody clapped, and you could hear dun 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 dun. I was like, oh well. Anyways, oh well. It's been great. We've talked about many things, and I've rambled off the subject, but good night. I'm glad you got to listen to. I'm glad I forced you to listen to Pistolero by Frank Black and the Catholics. And that's got to be one of the weirdest names of a band, Frank Black and the Catholics. Like he represents the whole Catholic Church. I wonder how people who are Catholic feel about that. Like,
I don't
and I
know.
don't know.
Oh, "Don't Come Around
But it
Here
was
No More." I can play that one too.
oh, that's a good song.
And "Last Dance with Mary Jane." I was trying to find that other song. It came out, I think, in the '80s. Tom Petty, and it was the one where they're like out in the video. They're out in the desert, and I can hear the music in my head, but I can't think of the.
Are you not talking about the waiting is the hardest part, or
No, it's
uh
and they go into like what looks like an old arcade. And they start turning on the arcade.
I know
What
what you're
song is
talking
that?
about,
It
but I'm trying
has
to think
like
of the
a
name.
kind of a melancholy kind of sound. I was trying to find it here because I won't back down.
Is that the one about the heart? Like, don't come around here no more, or
Don't come in
don't
here.
come
Yeah,
around
that's
here
not
no
it.
more. It's not that one.
Um, uh,
Stop running my heart around. No, or no,
no,
it's not
it's
that one.
like down, 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 down,
Yeah, I can
down.
think. I can. What is that
I
song?
don't
Hold
know. I
on.
can't
I
find
got.
it.
Give me a second. I'll give it a second. I know
Refugee.
it. That's the intro.
Refugee.
What?
Is that it? No,
Yeah, refugee. That's not gonna be refugee, is
I
it?
don't know. Let me see. I got it right here on my iPad. Oops, I thought.
No, you don't have to be a
No, that's not it.
refugee. No, don't. That's not
Down,
it.
down,
Have to be.
down, 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 down. What is that?
I know that. I can't think of the title.
In the city.
I was think about the
Oh
song.
my gosh, what is it? It's driving me crazy now.
It's, I don't know. Let's see. I know exact riff.
I mean, I can hear the music to it. Okay.
Is it "Learning to Fly"?
No, I'm learning to fly, but I
That's
don't
more
have
upbeat.
wings. Yeah, that's not it. Um, I know how it feels.
I could see the video
I
in my
can
mind.
see.
I see the arcade.
Um, okay, and the riff is down, 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 down. Somebody
I
that's
know.
watched this
God.
podcast are going, it's this, it's
Yeah.
this.
I'm gonna have the in the corner right here. It's gonna have the song in the box right here while we're talking about
They're
this.
gonna be like screaming at us, like, I know what that is. It's this song. And we're like, we can't hear them. Let's see, greatest hits. It's got to be on here because it was a big hit. Don't feel like a refugee. That's not it.
No.
Um, it's not free falling. It's not learning to fly. It's not. Don't come around here no more. Um, oh, this is driving me crazy. Um,
It has the arcade. Does he drive off in a car with a weird
yeah.
hat on?
I think I found it here. Here it is. You got lucky. That's it.
Oh, you got lucky,
Yeah,
baby. And I found you. That's
yeah.
it.
You got lucky,
You
and I
got.
can play that one too.
He's got so many songs. He got so many songs. Well, I wouldn't mind playing some Blue Oyster Cult with you if you could play some Tom Petty. I would
Yeah.
go for that. I love, and I have a weird thing. I try to imitate his voice sometimes because he's got that certain nasal drawl. Like he's got Tom's got that. I don't know how to imitate him on the fly, but it's like I'm free, free
Well,
falling.
see, on Mary Jane's Last Dance, that's really fun to play on the bass.
Yeah, it's an easy song too. But if you listen to that song, if you really listen to the guitar, it's like such a weird way to play it because it's like some of the notes are muted on purpose, so you get this real clanky sound. It's like yeah. She grew up in an Indiana town, had a good looking mama who never was around, but she grew up
But yeah,
tall, grew up right. Those Indiana boys on those Indiana
yeah. See, I can
nights.
play.
Whoa.
Um, you know, when I do pick up the bass and play, I'm gonna have to start playing it again. I haven't played it in about
Yeah.
2 or 3 weeks. I picked up the other day.
Well, music
My
makes me happy, so that's one thing I
fingers
can
aren't.
tell when my anxiety's getting up high, and I feel like I'm getting grumpier, and my supermodel girlfriend is getting on my nerves. I have to play
I found the
music,
dictionary again.
and that'll be
Girlfriend,
better.
girlfriend.
Okay. Anyways, we should get together and jam. It's too bad you live in Amarillo and I live south of Houston,
Yeah,
so it's a bit of a drive. So if people are from other states, Texas is about the size of 3 or 4 states if you live like on the East Coast. So I did go to Amarillo like 4 years ago, and I think it was about a
well,
six or
that's a
eight hour
10 hour
drive
drive
for
because
me.
I have relatives in Houston, in Sugar Land.
Yeah, 10 hour drive. Well, we went to San Marcos, and I visited my friend in San Marcos, and we went from
Yeah.
San Marcos
See,
up to
San Marcos is
Amarillo,
about
and
eight
that was
hours. Then, yeah, because see, I
mhm.
have relatives in Sugar Land, so and
Yeah.
it took us a good 10 hours straight.
Yeah, I changed my alternator belt. in my on my vehicle at a HEB in Sugar Land only 2
Oh
weeks ago.
wow,
So I know Sugar. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
HEB, what's
A
that?
lot of fun.
Okay, because we don't have that here either. We
Yeah.
don't have.
Oh, you don't have HEB?
No, we
That's
don't have
weird.
Costco.
That's weird. All right. Well, hey, we've gone a little bit
Yeah.
long, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. But I think we better hurry up and wrap it up because we're getting to the hour 20 mark. And I've had a great time talking with you, Cleve. We've learned so much about gunpowder, magic, and lead. We've talked about the terror. We've talked about Frank Black and the Catholics, Pistolero. By the way, if you want to check out this weird album I'm talking about, of course, you can find it on YouTube. You can find it on, if you get Apple Music, or if you're on the Amazon, you got those pro subscriptions, or Spotify. But it's called Pistolero by Frank Black and the Catholics. And I believe he has about three albums, I think, under the artist name Frank Black and the Catholics. He's got several under a self-titled Frank Black and several under Black Francis. And then he's got Pixies. So they've got a bunch of albums. But you will know if you really pay attention and listen that that's Pixies. The style of the sound and the singing, it's just the sound is different than Pixies. It's more of a loose. It's really loosey goosey, kind of crazy, free rock. It just doesn't have that polished edge to it. I think a Pixies album might have. But yeah. So we've had a lot of good conversation. We've talked about bar fights,
Call Betty,
cranky old ladies,
Oyster Cult. We kind of covered the gamut,
Blue
didn't
Oyster
we?
Court. Covered a lot of good stuff. And yeah, so check out that series on Netflix, the Terror, and it looks like they're gonna have a second season coming up soon. And if you want to check out Pistolero by Frank Black and the Catholics, and you can impress all your friends with your diverse, weird knowledge of music, because it's always that one friend who knows these obscure
Mm-hmm.
albums, and you can be like, "Well, have you heard Pistolero by Frank Black and the Catholics?" You don't know much, do you? You haven't heard it. See, I did that to Cleve to try to throw one at him.
Like,
No, but I really love that album. It's really one of my favorites. But he showed me the Warning, so we're even there because I had never heard of
yeah.
them. So yeah. So I think we've covered it for tonight. We'll have to save something for next week. So we better not go any further because we might, got to save something for next week. I want to say what I want to review, but I don't want to say it because then they'll go watch it and then we won't see it for this. But I'll tell. It's something I definitely want to
It's
review
not
for
on
next
Netflix.
week. So,
I can tell you that.
oh
Not.
yeah, it
It's
couldn't
not on
be.
Netflix.
Okay.
It's on Hulu.
Oh yeah, there you go, giving it away. All right, but let's go. Had a great
Yeah.
night. All things good must end. We'll see you next time. Please like, subscribe to this channel, and we'll talk more about Cleve's new channel once he gets that going, or podcast. You'll be the first to know. Check him out. He's on YouTube as well. He's got a YouTube channel, and of course, well, if you've listened this far, you know about Red Mage Ascending. So definitely want to check that out. But there's a lot of books. I'm digressing, okay? Anyways, we'll see y'all next week.
Bye.
Thank y'all for listening. Thanks for listening to the Merick and Ulrik podcast. Please like and subscribe to this channel and join us next week.